Hey and welcome back to another video of jPlay. I am Marcus and today I will start my learning exercise of Dawn of the Zeds, now in the 3rd edition. To my shame, I have to admit I never ever played Dawn of the Zeds before. Not the 1st edition, not the 2nd edition, and of course not the 3rd edition. And when I opened up the box, I noticed I think there were 5 or 6 different rulebooks, reference guides and whatnot in there, and I was really scared at first. But the good thing is you can learn the game step by step. You can start playing with a basic game rulebook, and then I think you can go over to the level up rulebook where you see the advanced rules. And I believe there is also one book, I don't have it with me right now, which is basically the no brains rulebook, something like a family version of the game, relatively lightweight. But I will not do a learning exercise or playthrough session of this rules, at least not at this point in time, because it really plays completely differently to all the other rules in the basic and the level up rules. And yeah, this is pretty much the setup for the basic game. You would play it on side A, on the side B, so basically the flip side of this main game mode. There's also a catacomb system that's printed here on the map. There's also an additional map that basically presents all those tracks here, of course. In this basic version of the game, we are only playing with the action markers here. This is something that shows you how much actions you have, and we play with the ammunition marker here. So we are not using the supplies, we are not using the infection level here, and I believe this sets action, that's also something when you do that as some kind of a versus mode of the game, which is also interesting. So like last night on Earth, one of the players takes over the roles of the zombies. At least this is how I understand it. The goal of the game in the so-called basic game is relatively simple. You have to keep all of the zombies outside of this town center here. The first time a zombie unit moves into the town center, the game immediately ends. There is no final fight whatsoever. No, we immediately lost the game. You also notice that we start the game with 4 heroes, even though we are playing a solo version of the game. There is also, let's say, co-op version, and I also mentioned it, the versus mode of the game. I will play it solo, which means I only have one of those player action tokens, but this also makes the game a little bit easier in respect to the rules. Still, we have to face or play with 4 different heroes. One of those heroes will be our main hero. I come to that in a second. And we also get one of those heroic civilians units here. And in this case, I chose this veteran unit here, the local 12. They have a speed of 3, a strength of 3. When they are basically healthy, they have these abilities, armed and ready. This unit's first gunfire attack turn costs 0 ammo. It still costs an action, but they brought their own ammo, it seems. And we have the combat experience. This unit ignores retreats, forcing Zeds to retreat instead. So I think this seems to be pretty powerful. And in respect to our heroes, so Captain Piazza here will be our main hero. Not sure why I chose her, but she looks kind of cool to me. Then we have Sheriff Hunt and his deputy, so I found it really thematic to have some kind of a police force fighting side by side. You could also go for one of the mayor, just forgot the name, Hernandez, right? But yeah, I really chose to go with those 2, and I want to have a scavenger with me as well. So we see Mr. Johnson here, and Mr. Johnson has a very practical starting ability like this stockpiles here. When he enters play, you immediately gain +2 supplies and 3 ammo, including when he's selected during setup, which is kind of good news, because in the basic game you start with 4 ammunition, so we can immediately add 1, 2, 3 ammunition here, which is already great news. We are losing the 2 supplies as we are not playing with supplies in the basic game, but overall I think that's a relatively good starting bonus. The next thing I have to do is to prepare our event deck. So we have here, I think it's Act 1, 2, 3 and 4, and there will be one of two end cards which will be placed on bottom of the deck. The setup and epilogue book, like this one here, shows you how you have to set up those event cards, and I will do that right now. And therefore we check the deck construction tables for the basic game. We will play the short solo game. So in the first act we will see 2 normal cards. In the second act we will see 5 normal cards and 1 special card. 3 and 1 in the third act and 2 and 1 in the fourth act. And then of course we will see one of the 2 end cards that are represented by the basic game. And all those cards are basically color coded. For once you see the color and this little stripe up here. This tells you it belongs to the basic or to the first level of the advanced game. I think it's the, what's it called? I think it's the Outbreak level, correct. Then there will be the next level. This will be showing 2 of those stripes and so on, and those 4 stars tells you that this card belongs to the 4th act pile. Now let's build up the deck, and this is basically our event pile here. I removed 4 cards from the decks to represent the shorter game. This also means the game is a little bit easier now, because in the end this is our ultimate goal. We want to run through this event deck, and when we dealt with the last cards and there are no zombies in our town center, then we actually saved Farmingdale. Wouldn't that be nice? I already prepared the tokens according to the setup book for the basic game. So I randomly drew our first zombie unit here. This has a strength of 6. This is already, yeah, it's mediocre. There are the way tougher ones in there. Then I placed 2 of civilian units. Right now they are still defined. They want to protect their villages here, like East Iraq here, for example, or Beauville up there. The first time they get basically attacked by zombies, they will lose this defined token. Then they would be allowed to move. And I did pretty much the same for all the other so-called tracks here. So this would be the forest track here. We see a zombie horde of 5 strength. This is weaker. As you might imagine, we will see 1 civilian unit here in St. Thomas. Here we see a zombie horde of 7 strength. This is stronger. Then Lefty's Pass, we see this civilian unit, also still defiant. And last but not least, we see another zombie horde with a strength of 6 here on the highway track, and 1 civilian unit here in Ingeborg. Even though you already see a lot of other cool little things like the super weapon slot here or the jail, we will not be using it in the basic game here. And the same was also true for the hospital and the laboratory here. There is a saving roll still in the basic game, but if you save your troop, basically you immediately get them back into the town center. This also makes the game a lot easier. Before we start, let's have a look at our heroes. So here we have Captain Piazza. She's from the military. She has a strength of 3 while she is healthy. Basically, once she's flipped, she would go down to 2 strength. He has a speed of 5, which is pretty good. Normally all of our heroes have a speed of 4, but she's a fast little sniper. Her abilities is, for once, the elite sniper. She can make a long range gunfire attacks, and her gunfire strength is based only on range. So she really hits pretty well if she's 2 spaces away from her target. Then her strength is 4 for the ranged fire, which is quite a lot, to be honest. Then she has the Overwatch ability here. After she makes a gunfire attack, she may withdraw, move away from a target by 1 space. Any player unit in her space may be moved with her, including defiant civilians. So this is pretty cool, I guess. And she has the ammunition crafting, which is also very, very useful. Piazza can make her own ammo and then shoot. Spend 2 actions to make a gunfire attack using 0 ammo. And she can still do that multiple times per action phase. And then this ability only triggers in the so-called versus game with a real zombie player. Then we have Sheriff Hunt, the law enforcement. He has a strength of 5, which is really a lot, so he's really great in a hand-to-hand combat. He has the leadership abilities, so once per action phase he may spend his leadership action marker, so like this one here, to give one civilians or refugees unit in a space on or next to him one free action. This is really good, so you can use it once per round, which is cool, and he can use it to also move let's say adjacent units around, but only civilian units. He has the long range ability. He can make a gunfire attack from 2 spaces away, but he gets a -1 penalty, so basically a left shift. I come to that in a second when we deal with the first fights. Then we see the tough value here. Each time he receives a hit, we would roll a die. 1, 2, or 3, he suffers that hit normally, and on a 4, 5, 6, that hit is cancelled. Awesome. And then he has the martial arts ability. In every hand-to-hand combat, he is allowed 1 reroll, and that would mean he has to reroll both of his dice. Then we have his loyal deputy Schmidt here, also law enforcement character. He has a strength of 4, much better than Piazza, but still not that strong as Sheriff Hunt himself. You see, he also has a movement value of 4, and his abilities are the initiative. Once per action phase, he receives a character action to spend on his unit only. So here's this initiative marker. Normally, you can really use those player action and all the other action tokens basically anywhere you like, but those character actions are really solely for the character they belong to. But still, he gets 1 extra action to do, which is pretty useful. He has the Eagle Scout ability. He receives a right shift in all hand-to-hand combat, which is pretty cool. He's also tough, so we know that from Sheriff Hunt, and he also has the martial arts abilities. Oh, they really received a good training in Farmingdale, it seems, so he's also allowed 1 reroll per hand-to-hand combat. And last but not least, we see Mr. Johnson, the scavenger. He has a strength of 3 right now. He has the stockpiles ability. We already talked about this one. This provided us 3 additional ammo, which is great. He is allowed to roll 2 dice when conducting a forage action. Then we would be able to choose which die we wanted to take, which is pretty great. He has a heavy weapons. His gunfire attacks receive 2 right shift. This is really a lot, I can assure you that. He has the practical medicine ability. As an action, perform a heal action on any unit or an adjacent unit to his space at the cost of 1 supply. This sounds pretty cool, but unfortunately we are not playing with supplies, so he will not be able to leverage this special ability here. But he still has the traps ability. When a Zeds unit or a Zeds mobs enter his space, he may roll a die. 1, 2, 3, normal hand-to-hand combat takes place, but on a 4, 5, or 6, that's Zeds unit takes 1 hit, and Johnson has to retreat. So this can be pretty useful as well. Yeah, and those were basically all of our characters. Of course, we must not forget the heroic civilians. I already showed you the special abilities of those. Hopefully I will not forget those. And again, keep in mind, this is a learning session for me, so I'm pretty sure I will mess up some of the rules a lot. So please bear with me. Give me your comments, tell me what I did wrong, and then I will really try to repair that in my next episode of this playthrough here. And maybe I'm really considering to go with the Outbreak playthrough after I went through this basic game here. So all your helpful comments will definitely help me to make at least the next playthrough much smoother. I think we should be good to go to start our playthrough here, and so let's draw our very first event card. And here we see Rule 7, cardio. So you have to be really fit in order to survive the zombie apocalypse. You see that it's an Act 1 card here. In the basic game, you really ignore the first 3 taps here on this card, so we jump directly into the Zeds activation space. But we first have to check what it says here. At the beginning of this phase, place 1 new Zeds unit on an empty start space of your choice if possible. Otherwise, place it on the start space with the lowest strength Zeds unit. If and when a Zeds unit enters a space occupied by any civilians or hero unit this turn, you may freely retreat that unit instead of engaging in hand-to-hand combat. As we just started the game, we already have a zombie unit on each of the starting spaces here. So in this case we look for the lowest zombie horde, which would be on the forest track up there. So let's draw one zombie from the zombie bag here, or from the zombie cup. In this case it's a nice little bag. And here we drew another 5 strength zombie. There is a piling limit in Dawn of the Zeds, which is basically 2 units of each kind on a space. So in this case they will do stacks. So this is now a zombie mob, I believe that's referred to. So they will now move together and they will also fight together. So this zombie mob has now a strength of 10, which is really quite a lot, that's for sure. This was pretty much the event for this card. We still have to activate the tracks, which are printed here on this tab. In this case it's basically twice on the suburbs track, which is kind of bad news for the defined civilians here in East Iraq, because this zombie will now activate once. This was the first activation, but as there are 2 symbols on this track, this means we have to activate that zombie horde again. So they would now move over to East Iraq here. Now they have a choice because of the event on this event card here, which says, even when a Zeds unit enters a space occupied by any civilians or hero unit this turn, you may freely retreat that unit instead of engaging in hand-to-hand combat. But as this zombie horde here isn't that big of a deal, I believe, and because we are still here in East Iraq, which gives us 1 shift to the right, which is always a good thing. So we know our town, or they know their towns, they know where to hide, they know where to, whatever, set up an ambush for the zombie horde here. They get some kind of a bonus. I really think I want to go into hand-to-hand combat right now. And now we have a look at the hand-to-hand combat matrix here. First of all, we compare the strength over the attackers, in this case the zombies versus the defenders, in this case the civilians. We see they have a strength multiplied by 2, so the zombies have a strength of 6. Our civilians have a strength of 3, so they have twice the strength. So first of all, we check the columns here. So this is overall not that good, but still we get the right shift, because right now we are defending our hometown here. So we go to the Zeds advantage here. So this is now basically our column we look at, and now we basically have to roll 2 dice. It's really a pity that those are not really engraved, guys. Otherwise the component quality is really great, but yeah, I really don't like those dice here. But still, we would roll those 2 dice and we are looking for a very high result. The higher the better in this game. So let's see, and this was really devastating. Only a 4. Which means we go from top to bottom. So this is the 3 to 4, which means the zombies get 0 hits, we get 3 hits, and of course we also have to retreat in this case. Of course the defined marker goes away immediately. Now we have to assign some hits here. So we said this was 3 hits. The first hit, that's basically still fine, so there is a little heart symbol here. The next heart they get means they have to flip it to the other side, so they lost a point of strength, but still we remove all of the hearts, but we have 1 more heart to assign, so this unit is now still wounded. So the next hit this unit takes basically means it would kill it right away. Still, this unit has to retreat back here to the Farmingdale University, and I already kind of regretted that I not used the special text on this card here. But again, this was my very first die roll in Dawn of the Zeds, so again, please apologize if this was really a terrible mistake from my side. But now it's time to strike back. We check out how many event actions we get from this event card. This is unfortunately only one action, but fear not, we still have the actions from our players as well. For once, my player action here, we have the leadership actions from Sheriff Hunt, which is a great thing, and we still have the initiative character action from Deputy Schmidt up there. We can now use our actions, event actions and player actions and whatnot the way we see fit. Basically, the only limitation is the initiative token from Deputy Schmidt here, which he has to use on his own token, but apart from that he's fine. And I'm really thinking of sending our local heroes here towards the forest track, because we know there is already a zombie mob of 10 shambling towards our city here. So I think he will now spend his leadership token here in order to give the civilian unit the command to move along the forest track here. So this would be 1, 2 and 3 movement points there. They have to stop. Unfortunately, we can still use the event action to move them ahead, but not sure if that would really do us any good at this point in time, or maybe that does. No, I think for now we are fine, because this zombie mob is still some spaces away. It's relatively unlikely that they will make it to St. Thomas in one event card here, and then we could still move them here to St. Thomas, because they're definitely stronger than the normal civilians here. So I think I will leave them where they are right now, and I will leave for my second action or second activation now. I will do the example from the rulebook, because it really seems like a relatively good idea. So I will spend my player action, and I will play the player action now on my main character. Remember, I can use this player action to activate any unit, but in this case I will activate Captain Piazza here. First thing that she will do is to move towards this mob here, because the next time it gets activated again, it will attack our civilians, and then it's pretty likely that they will kill our civilians here. So we will move her 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces here. She could move 1 space further, but her special ability allows her basically to fire also 2 ranges away, 1, 2, and therefore she gets strength of 4 instead of 3, because she's 2 spaces away. So I think this really makes more sense for her, which also means we have to eat up our event action, our only event action for this round, in order to fire towards this zombie horde here. Therefore, we have to spend 1 ammunition. She could use an additional action to get rid, so she can make her own ammo, but right now we are out of actions and we have way more ammo than actual actions here. And then we check the gunfire attack matrix here. She has a strength of 4 because she's shooting from 2 spaces away, so she go for this column here, which is pretty cool. I think we still have to roll 2 dice, and this time I'm really hoping for something high, so an 8 or 9 or more would be really awesome. Let's see, that's an 8, which means we only inflict 2 hits here. I was in the wrong column, so with an attack strength of 5 I would get 3 hits, but okay, that's better than nothing. This zombie horde takes 2 hits, which is unfortunately not enough to flip it on the other side. That's really unfortunate. We still have the initiative action token from Deputy Schmidt. Unfortunately, we can only use it on his own, and I think we will use it. So let's flip it to indicate it's spent, and I think I will move him along the east side here, basically towards the mountain track, because it's a relatively strong zombie horde waiting here as well. So he will move 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces here on this trail up there. Those were pretty much all of our actions. Now we come into the so-called, I think, housekeeping phase, which means we can flip all of our tokens back to their normal side. We will discard this event card now for now, and this was pretty much the very first round. And I think I will call it a day for now. Otherwise, I think it would get too long for the very first episode. I think you still have to digest a lot of stuff, and I haven't shown you the full game yet with the supplies track and the infection level and whatnot here. But at least we were able to witness our first combat, which is great. And I really hope you enjoyed it so far. And I really hope I haven't made too many mistakes so far. And I promise I will do at least 2 or 3 turns in the next episode of my playthrough of Dawn of the Zeds in the 3rd edition. I'm really looking forward to this playthrough as a whole because I'm still a huge fan of zombie themed games. I'm still a huge fan of Last Night on Earth, and I was really waiting the arrival of the copy of Dawn of the Zeds in the 3rd edition here. Hope to see you soon in my next episode of my playthrough here, and yeah, until then, bye bye.